It was a peaceful morning when May 5th, 2013, in a small village in Linyi City, Shandong Province, an old lady had prepared breakfast for his son and daughter-in-law, who just married and had 3 months of pregnancy. But they didn't show up as usual, with their phones being off. The old lady had waited till 10 o'clock a.m. and wondered if they had any conflicts due to family affairs. She made a decision to approach his son's place to check what was going on with them. Her son lived in a newly built house at the edge of the village, which is fairly remote and isolated. A small woodland was in front of the gate and a narrow river was nearby. When the old lady got there, she sensed something different. The gate of the yard and the door of the rooms were not locked at all. She shouted out the couple's name and tried to find them inside the house. None of them were found. So she went back to the yard and checked if there were any clues. Then it was a creepy scene that came into her eyes. The dog of her son was brutally slaughtered, which died in a pool of blood. The lady almost fell over in such a sudden shock. Without any hesitation, she instantly dialed the police. An investigation soon was carried out. The surveillance cameras were found in the yard, which were supposed to record everything that happened in the house, but the wire was somehow cut off cleanly. The security grills were badly damaged, implying that someone had broken into the house through the window. The investigators went inside the house and found a pot of braised pork belly on the tea table in the living room. It was a bit weird because the husband didn't have the habit of eating meat, while the wife only preferred lean cuts. A pot of pork belly was obviously not for the couple, but for a group of people. The computer that kept the records from the camera was also stolen. Perhaps the criminal disposes of it purposely. The inside of drawers and cabinets were rummaged. Cigarette butts, drink bottles, and watermelon rind used as an ashtray were found in a wardrobe. A mop and a stick were found broken under the couch. Traces of blood were left on the floor, and there were signs of cleaning and wiping. In connection with the bizarre vanishment of the couple, it soon gathered the police's high-level attention. In the bedroom placed a double bed. The bedsheet was new and flat. Things in this bedroom seem unusually tidy, but after flipping the mattress, blood was found on the back. While in another bedroom, some clothes were left on the ground, among which was a woman's underwear that had been torn. It could be concluded that someone who was not invited had broken into the house, causing the disappearance of the couple. Soon the police noticed something in the river nearby. The river was shallow, and 3 garbage bags were clearly visible at the bottom of the river. The police took the bags out of the water and opened them, finding some domestic trash and some clothes. Despite the clothes were intact, they had been stained with blood, with several deposit cards and a social security card in the pocket. After identification, the clothes were the belongings of the couple, as well as the deposit cards, among which the social security card was of a stranger. These things were dumped together in the same bag. It must have some sort of connection with the stranger and the missing couple. Later it was proved that the social security card was key evidence in this case. The police extended their search area in order to find any traces of the couple. Subsequently, the blood was found in the woodland at south of the house. Along the blood traces, they came to the foot of a small hill. There is a cave on the hill with a height of approximately 3 meters above the ground. The police climbed into the cave and checked, finding that a lot of corn straws were piled up at the very inside. After the removal of the straws, they finally discovered 2 bodies which were confirmed as the missing couple. The inquest demonstrated that the couple was strangled to death, and the mistress had suffered from sexual assault before she was killed. The cave where the police discovered the bodies was 3 meters above the ground. It's impossible to lift the 2 bodies with only one person. So it could be known that this is a gang crime rather than a personal crime. The couple was newlywed for half a year. The husband was 26, while his wife was 24. They operated a street vendor at night market, selling street food for a living. Their kindness and diligence were well known in the village, as they would never have any conflicts with others. After a thorough investigation of their social relations, it was very likely a robbery-murder case. The only evidence that could locate the murderer as quickly as possible was the bank card and social security card left in the thrown-away bags. On the night of May 14th, the police received a message that more than 10,000 yuan were withdrawn from the wife's bank card, and the camera had taken the image of the man who was drawing money. The man, covering his head with a hood, successfully took cash from the ATM multiple times. Every time he picked up the money, he smirked in a way that his inner excitement was written all over his face. The victim's family had no idea who this man was, but they could be sure that the clothes he was wearing were from the mistress, which further indicates that he must be one of the suspects in this case. As for the Social Security card, it belonged to an old man who was weak and frequently ill. He was already more than 60 years old, living in Xintai City, which is about 100 kilometers away. He was too weak to walk on his own, being taken care of by his wife. His physical condition apparently couldn't allow him to commit a fierce crime like this, but the police were told that the Social Security card was actually controlled by his son, whose name is Fu Gang. Fu had no jobs and lived on his parents. He took the card from his father only to possess the insurance with only 50 yuan per month, which made his parents' life even harder. The card was somehow found in the victim's pockets, illustrating the decisive connections between Fu and the murder case. But where was Fu Gang after all? After hours of effort, they finally found the traces of Fu. He had recently been stalking around with other 3 men, even at the day of the crime. On May 17, 2013, their real-time activities were monitored by the police. They were on an inner-city trip to Jining in Shandong province. The police soon implemented a sudden arrest of them, sending forces to stop the coach which was still running on the highway. One of them, whose name was Zhang Shuijun, opened the window and jumped out as soon as he saw the police boarded on the coach. But he didn't expect that a police car was just under the window. He fell on the police car, where the police chief happened to be aside. The chief grabbed his leg at once and pulled him down to the ground. In the end, all of them were successfully captured, which were proved to be exactly the murderers of the couple. Among them, Fu Gang was 25, Zhang Shuijun was 26, who was the leader of the gang, once being guilty of robbery and was sentenced to 8 years in jail, released on a parole 2 years ago. Wang Jiying was 22 years old and also have an experience of serving 3 years in jail for the guilty of robbery. The one who was responsible for withdrawing money from the bank was called Zhao Feng, was still underage and only 17 years old. There were no attempts to resist the arrest once they were caught, and they had confessed all the process of the crime. The truth, which was spine-chilling and unacceptable, which raised extreme anger of the police officers. It was one day when Shuijun, Jiying, and Zhao Feng were idle and had nothing to do at the moment. Suddenly, an idea to make off with some money was suggested. They were strolling around, hunting for their preys. On the edge of a small village where people rarely visited, they found a newly built and well-decorated house. It looks like the house owner had some assets and there were no passers-by came around the isolated house. It might be easier to implement their theft. So they decided to break the security grill and came in, but nothing worth a penny was found. When they were about to leave, Shuijun took a look at the wedding photo. He soon was attracted by the beauty of the bride in the photo, sighing that she's really pretty. On May 14, 2013, the gang had squandered all their dirty money and looking for another target. They were reminded that the house they had been to but got nothing a few days ago. The couple might become more cautious since the last break-in, so they decided to intrude into the house directly to implement a robbery. Fu Gang had just joined the gang recently. He expressed his eagerness to get involved with the group activities, saying that he was very curious about the beauty of the mistress in this house. The 4 were firstly brought to the town and then were taken to the house by a 3-wheeler. Knowing that the couple was still at home, they were determined to wait outside for the right time. During their waiting, Shuijun said the mistress was very beautiful, and it would be a regret if they wouldn't do something. They even plotted to hide the body inside the cave just in case it is needed. It was already 6 o'clock in the evening. Dusk began to fall. The couple went outside for a walk as they used to. The house was empty now, and it was the time to do it. But a newly installed surveillance camera was found on the roof when they sneaked to the wall and prepared to climb over it. To avoid being captured, Fu Gang was requested to deal with it. His chubby figure didn't deter him from climbing to the roof and cutting the wire. After it was all set, the other three trespassed into the yard and jumped into the house through the window, setting up an ambush for the couple. Meanwhile, they found a computer in the house, which stored the camera record before the wire was cut. After several failed attempts to delete the video records, they decided to take away with the computer when they complete the crime, in order to conceal the evidence of their actions. At 7 o'clock in the evening, the couple came back home from outside. Once the husband stepped into the yard, the gang popped out all of a sudden and attacked the couple. It was difficult for the husband to fight against 4 young men alone, let alone 3 of them grabbed knives. The fighting ended up with the husband being defeated and wounded. He was handcuffed and his feet were tied tightly with the wire. The mistress was rudely brought to the bedroom. In order to grab his money, the gang kept battering the husband and threatened the husband if he didn't cooperate and gave the bank card PIN number, the violence would upgrade. The husband who was injured during the fighting could not bear it consequence that his wife might be hurt and finally gave in. At 9 o'clock at night, Zhao Feng joyfully went to the bank to withdraw the money with Wang Ji-ying, wearing the outfit of the mistress. The dog, which won't stop barking in the yard, was smashed dead with a brick by Fu Gang to avoid attracting more attention from neighbors. At the meantime, the violence still upgraded despite of husbands giving in. The mistress was experiencing severe sexual assaults by turn in the bedroom, while his husband was restricted and could do nothing. Although the husband told them his wife was pregnant, it only made it worse to excite those evils. The couple, who still held out hope that they could survive this horrifying nightmare, was afraid to infuriate the beasts, choosing to burden all the pains and stay restrained. The husband begged the gang with his desperate voice, saying, "You've got what you want, just do not hurt us." When it's in the early morning, the 4 felt a bit hungry, so they let Fu Gang make food for them. But Fu Gang was apparently not at all a cook, so that the husband was forced to cook braised pork belly for them. During the cooking, the couple humbly implored them to leave again and promised that they wouldn't call the police. The 4 pretended to agree, but they had already made up their minds to eradicate all the pieces of evidence, including the couple. After enjoying the feast, they didn't stop and kept on raping the mistress, who struggled at first and then became silent. The couple didn't say anything or make any noise, as both husband and wife had been numb and faint at this moment. At 3 o'clock in the morning, it was time to ring the bell for death. The husband, who had been through so much sufferings in the last 8 hours, was strangled to death without any resistance. It was a time that Ji Ying was a bit scared when he strangled the husband, but Shuijun shouted at him and said, "If you don't kill them, they will report us, and it will be our turn to rot in jail." Afterwards, they used a pillow to suffocate the mistress, who had been raped many times and finally died in despair. The corpses were transported to the cave they found earlier. They cleaned the traces and collected the trash in the crime scene. Fu Gang thought the jeans of the husband looked good on him. He put it on and kept his social security card in the pocket, by the way. Later, he found blood stain on the jeans, so he changed it to his own jeans again, but he forgot an important thing, that the social security card was left in the husband's jeans. After the cleaning, they discard the garbage bags and the computer into the river. Then the 4 flee right away in the dark night. At last, the 4 was guilty of raping and murdering. Zhang Shuijun, Wang Jiying, and Fu Gang was sentenced to death penalty, while Zhao Feng was sentenced to life imprisonment considering that he was still underage. It was June 22, 2016. Confirmed by the Supreme People's Court, the 3 had their last meal in this world. Despite the justice has been served, no one can really cheer up for their punishment. Even after a long period, people who care about the case couldn't recover their peace of mind. We can't imagine the pain the couple had been through. It was also very disappointing to learn that one murderer is still alive after the trial just because he was a minor when he committed the crime. Since the year of 2012, the gang had committed multiple instances of theft and robbery individually or collectively. Every successful crime boosted their confidence in gaining money effortlessly and gradually let them lose their humanity. The 4 were well organized with distinct goals, and their responsibilities were well distributed. The leader was Shuijun. He chose the target and plotted the crime, including distributing tools and giving orders. Every time when he commits crime, he knew what action might alleviate his punishment. He assigned Fu Gang to dispose of the computer and instructed Zhao Feng to withdraw the money. On the night of the crime, when the hunger struck, he forced the husband to cook for them after realizing that Fu Gang's bad cooking skills. He was in control of the situation, and almost everything was done under his commands. He manipulated and threatened the victim when it was going to lose control, step by step destroying the victim's mind of resistance. He was afraid to be identified as a principal, so that he raped the mistress and tried to cover his offense by killing them. After being arrested, they were interrogated about who's the decision-maker to murder the newlywed couple. Shui Jun said it was Ji Ying's idea, while other 3 members pointed Shui Jun as the one who gave the orders. Ji Ying was not only a determined executor, but also a malicious instigator. All the dark idea came up from him, showing no restraint when it came to the physical assault of others. The PIN number of the bank card was wheedled out by him. He and Zhao Feng went to the bank to get the money. Afraid of being captured by the security camera, he was a smartass to stay outside while Zhao Feng went inside and carried out the withdrawal. Fu Gang was not originally a member of this criminal group before the crime. When Shui Jun allowed him to participate he was eager to show his determination and loyalty to his fellows. According to Zhang Shui Jun's confession, Fu was responsible for most offenses during the crime. He raped the mistress, beat the husband, cut the wire, and slaughtered the dog. The initial idea of theft was proposed by Zhao Feng, who was still underage and had been desiring a new phone for a long time. His idea of theft eventually became a terrifying crime case. Despite being the youngest, he was born a criminal and behaved much crazier than others. It is certain that the 4 were evil and cruel, but also dumb at the same time. They chose to kill the couple to conceal the secret, but actually there were too many traces left, including cigarette butt, tableware, and DNA they left on the victims, let alone 2 of them have criminal records before. It's easy for the police to locate them in the database. These 4 murderers were notoriously insane, but they were doomed to go to a path with no return.